Good morning, I'm Ginger Gadsden. As the holidays draw near, many of us think of others. Thanksgiving to New Year's is the lifeblood of many charities. What we give over the next 2 months oftentimes sustains their work for the next year. So today on Flashpoint, we want to shine a light on a need you may not know about. It very well could be a need of someone you know. That need is for food. So joining us to talk about this morning is our guest, they might call it a hunger crisis in Central Florida, is Dave Krepcho, President and CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida. Also here is Mark Watson from Orange County Public Schools. Mark is an area manager in food and nutrition services. Thank you both for being with us this morning. We want to start with you, Dave. Lay it out for us. How big of a problem is hunger in Central Florida, and is it getting worse?
It's a huge problem. We see no let up. We don't see lessening demand for food for people. The economy's improving, and thank goodness it is. Well, may it improve faster and better for all, but it's been a very uneven recovery. But just to give you an idea of the size and scope of the issue, when we talk about Central Florida, I'm talking about a 6-county area roughly. And when you think about it, we're serving about 500,000 different people a year, okay? So the total population of that 6-county area is probably about 3.5 million, so it's a huge issue.
So 500,000 each year. How have you seen that number grow over the years?
Yeah, when the economic downturn hit, that grew substantially. And we thought, over the next 3 or 4 years after that downturn, we'd see a lessening of the demand. But it has remained at that level because part of the reason is that a lot of people who lost their jobs during the downturn still haven't found employment, or folks who had good paying jobs that lost their jobs, they lost their savings.
Sure.
We know a lot of people lost their homes as well. If they're getting jobs again, they're not getting them at the level of compensation that they were originally, so they're really having to make some tough choices.
All right, and speaking of tough choices, Mark, tell us what you're seeing when we talk about Orange County schools. Paint the picture for us.
Well, our free and reduced benefits program that we have, this year we're up at 68.8% free and reduced students in our schools. Last year at this time we was at 63%. So those benefits are just going up and up and up each year, to help these students get something to eat. We have different programs that we have to serve the kids, during school and after school. So it is like you said, it's a crisis that we need to get on board and help out a little bit.
Yeah, I know you say it's up from 63 to 68%. What were you seeing, say, perhaps a decade ago? Has it gotten worse from then as well?
Yes, this is actually the highest percentage we had since I've been in Orange County Public Schools. So it's getting more students need that benefits each year.
Okay, and Dave, you touched on this a little bit. That people are still recovering from the recession, and people who were highly compensated at one point may not be compensated at the same level. And we're oftentimes talking about families who they're working, and they are making their payments on things, but they just need that extra help.
That's right. There was a study done on the state of Florida, and they looked just at people who had jobs, okay, and interviewed them about their needs, their struggles, their challenges. And what they found out is that 45% of the households in the state of Florida, that's about half, okay, 45% of the households were struggling to bring basic necessities into their house. That's paying the rent or mortgage, buying food, paying for utilities, or putting gas in the car. I mean, that is just incredible statistics when you think about half of our state in that situation.
Yeah, but I just want to be clear that the people we're talking about, very often when we talk about people who need food, we all need food, but these aren't people who aren't working, who are looking for a handout. They are just looking to maintain their household. Exactly.
There's a stereotype out there with a lot of folks that it's the homeless individual, and those folks need help too, and that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, these are working people. I mean, we have people coming to us for food that they're holding down 2 full-time jobs. When you think of single mothers especially, you know, the poverty rate doubles when there's a single mom. And they're holding down a job, they're trying to buy that food, they're trying to get their child into daycare, you know. The math doesn't add up.
Sure,
you know?
And they're doing the best they can.
Exactly.
And that's where you guys come in to fill a gap. Tell us a little bit about what Second Harvest does.
Sure. Second Harvest, I mean, really, the simplest picture is everybody can relate to a bridge. You know, we're the bridge, and on one side of the bridge are all these folks that have need, from kids to working families to senior citizens. And then on the other side of this bridge is all the surplus food that's perfectly edible, okay, but that would be wasted for one reason or another. So we're the bridge to connect those two. And last year, for example, we distributed enough food for 44 million meals in Central Florida. And the staggering thing about that is it's not enough.
Yeah, and that was on your website. You provided food for 44 million families, kids, and seniors just in the last year. If you were to break that down, what does that look like?
You know, a simple breakdown of that is 1 in 4 kids are food insecure in Central Florida. 1 in 4, 25%. So about 25% of the food is going directly to children. Millions of meals, okay? Then you have about 1 in 5 seniors, you know, that are food insecure. Okay, so there's about 20% there. And that number is growing dramatically because the baby boomers are aging out and getting older. Okay, and then in between, you have the homeless. So we're providing food to the homeless shelters and anybody really doing any kind of feeding around homeless. That's about another 20%, you know, of the total food. And the remainder are working families, you know, the disabled,
sure,
those kinds of folks.
Yeah, but when you say something like 1 in 4 kids, and Mark, that really does speak to where you are, because you see those kids in the schools. Tell us a little bit about how Orange County is involved in feeding these kids beyond lunch when they are at home.
Okay. After lunch, we do have a snack program that we give out, and we have many schools that feed snacks to the entire school before they go home. And we also have, now we have 103 schools that we offer the supper program in, and that's a full meal after school is out. So that benefits a lot of students in Orange County because they can be in band, they can be in the football
sure,
team. You know, anybody can come in there. If they're in some kind of enrichment program, they can come in and get a meal before they go home. And a lot of times when these students go home, they don't have anything else to eat. This is a very good way to help them get through the day.
Yeah, when you hear that kids don't have a meal beyond lunch at school, I mean, that breaks your heart.
Yes.
So how do they get that help? Does the student have to ask for it? Do the parents have to ask for it?
No, if it's offered in the school, first thing, the school has to be at 50% free reduced before it can be qualified for the supper program. But if the program's at their school, they're eligible to go in and get it at no charge. So the kids just go in, show up, you know, with the after-school program that they're in, and go in, get a full meal, hot meal, every single day.
All right, is there a way to maybe help those kids who may be a little bit embarrassed that they need that help? Can teachers identify them, or can someone in the community identify them? Because they may not know the best way to do it, and if their friends aren't asking for it, they may not want to ask for it because it makes them different.
One thing we do is we don't say who's getting a meal at no charge. They come in, everybody is identified the same way. The only person who would know is the person at the cash register. And, you know, they get them through, and the kid, you know, the student does, from student to student, doesn't know who's on a free and reduced lunch. So if you're a paid student, you're a reduced student, or you're a free student, it's all the same to us. And nobody would ever know. So it's good to have those children come through. You know, just for example, my wife's a school teacher. And she came to me one day and said, you know, I saw a young lady sitting outside crying, and she went out to talk to her and found out that she was hungry. She didn't fill out an application to go in to get a free and reduced application. So my wife went and made sure she got an application filled out, made sure she had lunch that day, and identified it to me. And so now that young lady is getting a meal every single day.
Sure. What level does your wife teach?
At high school.
In high school.
Yes.
So, I mean...
But this is at all levels.
Yeah, it's at all levels.
Yes.
But it's just surprising that a high school student still needs that kind of help because she didn't know where to go or who to ask or what to do. And thank goodness your wife was aware enough to recognize that.
Yes, and also in high school, it's you know, when you talk about how do they go and not be identified as, you know, being free or reduced, in high school that stigma is there. You know, if you go to the cafeteria, you must be on free or reduced lunch. But that's far from the truth. We have millions of children coming in each year who are paid students, who are reduced students, who are, so you never know who it is. So a lot of them are just embarrassed to come in, but they need to just, you know, get some help and come in, and we can be able to get them a hot meal every single day.
Yeah, speaking of every single day, you also help them on the weekends as well. Explain how that works.
Well, we're starting a program that we're going to be serving on the weekends, on Saturdays. We haven't started it yet, so we have to get approval through the state to do it, but it is out there, and that's something we're working on now. And I know Second Harvest does stuff on the weekends.
Okay, and tell us how Second Harvest actually goes into helping these families. Tell us the process.
You know, we had teachers like his wife come to us, you know, 6-7 years ago when the economy really tanked, and said, you know, on Monday morning kids want to go home because they're sick, they got headaches or whatever, they can't concentrate, stomach aches, and found out that kids were hardly eating over the weekend, and some kids were not eating at all, okay, which is really hard to believe. So what we developed are weekend food packs, okay? So through donations to Second Harvest, we're able to provide these, and we're working with about 24 schools, and we try to focus on the highest need areas because the funding isn't there to expand it even further. And what we do is volunteers love packing these food packs for the kids, and then we deliver them directly to the schools, and that school champion, you know, whether it's the principal or a school nurse or an administrator, they're making sure they know what kids are really truly most in need, and they can in turn, you know, provide that food to the kids to take it home to have something for the weekend. And
tell us a little bit about, you know, we live in a society right now where we don't even look at each other and pay attention. Is there something that we can, as individuals, do to recognize, especially kids who are hungry and can't say anything for themselves? What should we be looking for?
I mean, so, you know, just a couple basic signs. You know, if you know you're around a child in the neighborhood or whatever, or it's, you know, extended family or whatever, you just look for, you know, signs that they're constantly looking for something to eat. You know, or if they're, you know, not feeling well, or their health, or they're having a hard time focus, you know, on their homework or whatever, it opens up opportunities to, you know, ask a child, you know, are they eating? Are they getting enough?
Yeah, that simple. All right, well, thank you. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the hunger crisis in Central Florida and how you can help. I'm Ginger Gadsden, and you're watching Flashpoint on News 6. Welcome back to Flashpoint, everyone. I'm Ginger Gadsden. We are talking about hunger in Central Florida with two people whose mission it is to help. Dave Krepcho is president and CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida, and Mark Watson is the assistant director of food and nutrition services at Orange County Public Schools. Thank you both for being with us on this important topic. And Dave, I want to ask you, we hear stories of people who sometimes have to choose between food or medicine or rent. Is that really a reality, or are we just hearing that?
It's not anecdotal. You know, we do a hunger study every 4 years, and we go out and we interview hundreds of people who receive emergency food and ask them a bunch of questions about their situation. So here's some of the statistically valid numbers on that, you know, to answer your question. When you look at it in households, there are, from a healthcare point of view, about 55% of the households have somebody that has hypertension, okay, or high blood pressure. About almost 30% of those households, people have diabetes, and there's an epidemic on that, you know, going on. And just over half the households don't have any kind of health insurance, okay? And then you look at the tough choices people are making, okay? And 71% of the households that we interviewed, people getting emergency food, they had, on a monthly basis, had to make the decision whether they pay rent or do they buy food? And another, again, the same kind of hard choice on paying for utilities or buying food, it's about 71% of the households. Or even that kind of decision on transportation. I can't imagine transportation. We're a mobile society, and all of us have a car, you know,
Yeah.
and some families have multiple cars.
Sure.
About 40% of these households, they don't even have their own transportation. So they're relying on public transportation to get around. But just, people are just really stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Okay, so people who are watching this this morning and they want to help and they want to reach out, what should they do?
Sure. I mean, there's a number of organizations that are doing wonderful work about feeding people and helping the homeless, and you can check them out. For Second Harvest Food Bank, you know, if you want to get involved with us or you need a referral to one of those other organizations,
Sure.
we've
got the information on the screen as well.
Terrific. So our website right there and phone number on the screen. People can help out as a volunteer. We depend heavily on volunteers. We have great activities for people, for families as well, to get involved. Or if you're an individual or a corporate group, donating money, of course, you know, is always there. Or donating food. You know, and a lot of people like to get involved with a food drive, you know, either as a family or a place of worship or with their company or neighborhood. So, you know, there's a variety of ways to get plugged in. Okay. And we'll make sure that if you want to help, we'll find a way.
And Mark, how do people get plugged in to help the kids in Orange County Public Schools?
Well, it's two ways you can do it. We encourage everybody, every parent out there, to fill out a meal benefits application each year because that's the first start of everything. And we also have what's called an angel fund in our schools. So if it's a child who doesn't have the means to get a meal that day, we can pull it from the angel fund and they can donate to the angel fund at any Orange County Public School. Just get in touch with the cafeteria manager and we can get that in. Or you can talk to the administration at the school and we can get it into that fund.
And I know we were just talking during the commercial break, and I just want to stress it again that a lot of these kids don't want to talk about it because they could be embarrassed. But you say once they trust you and they open up, then you start to realize that there's a need there.
Yes, that's true. Just talk to the child and see how they're doing. You know, a lot of them, once they get that trust in you, they will open up and tell you, I haven't had a meal today, or I need something, can you help me? And that opens up a lot of avenues for the student and the child.
Okay. And as we go toward another break, is there any final words that you'd like to say for folks? Because this is the time of year where a lot of us are with family and friends, and we're eating a lot and we're throwing away a lot.
Sure. You know, just, you know, we got to put a face on who's really in need. And we have to break those stereotypes that are held by so many people. And, you know, we could just look at kids, look at children. They're in circumstances way beyond their control. And these kids got to learn, you know, we need a healthy workforce. We need a healthy future. They literally are the future of this community.
Yeah, they really are. Well, thank you so much for being here. My thanks to Dave Krepcho, President and CEO of Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida, and Mark Watson from Orange County Public Schools. When we come back, the News 6 investigators confront a salesman who may be targeting someone you know. I'm Ginger Gadsden, and you're watching Flashpoint. Now to the News 6 investigators getting results. The grandson of an elderly woman contacted News 6 asking for our help. He claims a salesman crossed the line by targeting a senior citizen. Here's investigator Mike DeForest.
Hey, Chris, is it? Hey, I'm Mike with News 6. I want to talk to you about the vacuum cleaner you sold Ann Wood.
Door-to-door salesman Chris DeGennaro was apparently not in the mood to tell us the benefits of owning a rainbow vacuum. This elderly woman says he sold her one to clean her very small and very cramped mobile home. The price, more than $3,000.
Can you afford that?
Huh?
Can you afford that?
No.
Ann Wood has such poor hearing, I had to yell when asking her about this agreement, which shows she financed the vacuum over 2 years at a nearly 22% interest rate.
What did you sign?
Apparently the contractor buying it. I don't know.
You don't know what you signed?
No.
Wood says she got confused when another salesman barged into her back bedroom and took away her old vacuum.
I just felt like, you know, I was kind of dumb or something. You know, why didn't I yell at him, you know, and say, hey, you can't do that? But the fact that he just took my old vacuum and then walked out the door and left this one. And I thought, well, if I didn't buy this one, I wouldn't have a vacuum.
I assume you're an honest businessman. Why aren't you telling me about it?
DeGennaro is an independent contractor for Dynamic Air Distributors. The state has received several complaints from customers accusing their salesmen of using deceptive and predatory practices to target seniors, including one man suffering Alzheimer's and dementia.
Hey, Jamie.
The company's registered agent, Jamie Griffith, whose Facebook page describes her as an entrepreneur, did not return numerous calls. And their Orlando office was always closed when we stopped by. However, early one morning, we saw salesmen here loading their truck. So we followed them to this low-income community in Polk County where homes are worth as little as $8,000. That's where we found DeGennaro peddling high-end vacuums like the one he sold Ann Wood.
You know Ann?
I'm not sure.
Why would you sell a $3,000 vacuum cleaner to a nearly 80-year-old woman who lives in that tiny mobile home? Are you an honest businessman?
Less than 2 hours after they sped off, someone left this rusty, dirty vacuum at Wood's house with a note claiming it was her old one, except it wasn't. The company no longer had it, she was told. After we called Dynamic Air Distributors again, someone delivered a bit nicer used vacuum and took away the expensive one.
Well, I think he took advantage of me, yeah, you know, because I'm old.
Well, after News 6 got involved, Dynamic Air Distributors apparently canceled Wood's contract, but others have not been so lucky. Earlier this year, the company sued an 81-year-old woman who wanted to return her vacuum. The elderly woman's daughter agreed to settle the case for $700. If you have a story you want Mike DeForest or one of our other investigators to check out, email us at tips@WKMG. And that is Flashpoint for this week. I'm Ginger Gadsden. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great Sunday.